All right, so this is chapter 1, number 3 for my sports class. Let me get the right view here. This part of the first chapter, this can be for students can be kind of confusing. Let's just keep it simple. The way we know you know, and I know that you require vitamins and minerals and nutrients, carbohydrates, protein, fat, and water to survive. We've known this for 70 years. And starting 70 years ago, the United States government started to make recommendations for humans, its humans in America, to eat food. When I was a kid, they called it the RDA. That's what was on the back of a cereal box in the 1970s. I was born in 68, so I've been around for many decades. Not a lot of the 60s decade, but I was some of the 60s decade. And those have transitions in the 1990s to what we call the DRIs, dietary reference intakes. And they're basically 3 bits of data that are really easy to teach if you teach them in an uncomplicated manner, which I intend to do. So I consider DRIs for vitamins and minerals, okay, because they're generally congregate around an idea that you need enough of something, right? Like a threat, you have to get above this amount and you're going to be okay. That's for vitamins and minerals, right? If you eat too much, that's an issue. But let's just make sure you get enough. For the macronutrients, the carbs, the fat, the protein, I kind of hinted like in the first video. Well, protein depends on what kind of athlete are you? Carbohydrates and fat are used for fuel. Are you a fuel burner? You clearly need more of those if you're a long distance runner versus, let's say, a gamer. So those don't have an eat enough. They have kind of what's right for you. And then they're more rangy. Eat within this range, if you will. Those are the EER, or the estimated energy requirement. We're estimating how much of the macros you need based on your lifestyle. So the way this kind of works is this, and this is actually from a nutrition text. An EAR is a value we assign for vitamins and minerals based on what the average human needs. So let's use vitamin C as an example because most folks have heard of vitamin C. Let's just say the average human needs, I'm going to make up a number, 30 milligrams a day of vitamin C. Now, that's the average. Some humans need less. Some humans need more, based on gender, based on age, based on activity, whatever. That's the average. We don't recommend the average. We want to remember, vitamins and minerals, it's a get enough. So the RDA that you see, on the back of a cereal box, on the back of a protein food supplement, or whatever, protein shake, milkshake, whatever, that value is much greater than the average. Now, the average is created looking at animals, looking at, data that goes back decades. You figure out that number in the laboratory, the average. You multiply it statistically. It's a math equation. It really is. And they come up with the RDA. It doesn't meet the average. Here's the RDA. This is a bell curve of all Americans of a certain gender, age, whatever, like all pregnant women, 35 years old. The RDA on the back of that food that you see on the food label, it meets the needs of almost everyone. Not everyone, but almost everyone. It's a pretty big number. So I don't know what the actual EAR is for vitamin C off the top of my head. Saying it's 30 milligrams would not be like a bad thing. I wouldn't be insane. The RDA for women is 75 milligrams for vitamin C. And it's 90 for males, plus 30 if you're a smoker. We could be telling male smokers they need 120 milligrams of vitamin C a day, which could be 4 times the average person's requirement. Some RDAs are pretty luxurious. We give you plenty of wiggle room. So EAR is an average, laboratory data. You're never going to see it anywhere. The food label has the RDA, meets the needs of most people, not everybody, by the way, healthy people. And then if you consume too much, could you get into trouble eating too much vitamin C? Of course you could. You can get into trouble consuming too much water. We'll talk about that when we talk about hydration in 7 weeks. That's called the upper limit. And these really weren't a thing in the 70s and 80s because people used to eat a thing called food and only food. And then starting in the late 80s, early 90s, supplements, energy drinks, you name it, they became part of the food supply. So Americans are waking up with their multivitamin. They're eating food throughout the day, and then they're drinking a multivitamin we call a Monster, right? Or a 5-hour energy drink. So the amount of vitamin and mineral can get into kind of dangerous zone, if you will. Okay, so that's how we recommend vitamins and minerals. Now, can you do something about ensuring that Americans get enough of these without them kind of knowing it? Yeah, you can. And they started doing this in the 1940s. They started to do two things in America: enrichment and fortification. It's not complicated. Enrichment literally is, there are some foods which have been processed. They're usually grain-based, like noodles, grain-based, bread, flour, noodles, ramen, those kind of things. We know that processing the grain into flour removes nutrients. We add them back. That's enrichment. And there are some things which there really isn't a lot of nutrient in it to begin with from nature, right? And we're adding it from scratch. Vitamin D is added to your milk if you drink cow's milk. It's not there. There's some from the cow, not a lot. Human breast milk is not a great source of vitamin D. So for some foods we enrich, we add back, and some foods we fortify, we add from scratch. Breakfast cereals are generally enriched because they're made from flour and not whole wheat flour, just regular flour, and they're fortified. So, great example, right? Here's bread from the 1850s. It's got iron and niacin. That's mineral, B3, B1, B2, all this great stuff. Then we start making white bread, in 1880. Oh, what happened to all the whole grain stuff? Gone, removed. Then they started adding enrichment in the 1940s, and lo and behold, iron's added back, niacin's added back. So B3, B2, B1, B2, folate, which is added in the 1990s. So if you eat whole grain bread, like you make it at home from scratch, from whole wheat flour, unprocessed really, it's going to have lots of stuff. If you just buy white bread, in theory, it could be in blue, it could be missing tons of stuff. But starting in the 1940s, we made sure we started adding some things back. Not everything, some things. That's enrichment. We're adding back. Okay, and then you can look at this. Usually if it's not enriched, it's because it's a whole grain. Like whole wheat bread doesn't need to be enriched, right? It's this bread. But if you're buying wheat bread, it's probably just made from regular plain flour, and it's the one in purple. Actually, you really can't even buy bread that's blue. You can't buy that pre-enrichment white bread anymore because they just don't sell it. And then, I don't have fortification. Do I not have an example of fortification? I don't. A good example of fortification would be adding vitamin D to cow's milk, adding vitamin D to orange juice, adding calcium to orange juice. Those are a good example of adding something. Enrichment is adding back.